I'm Pete Brooker, your co-host, and with me today, joining me to talk about Inception, by the way, Chris Nolan film from 2010, is Christopher Laverty from Clothes on Film, the Instagram and blog, and Fashion and Film, the book. How are you doing today, Chris?
I am hot.
It is hot as balls here. I've also got Matt Spaiser, editor of Bond Suits. How are we doing today, Matt?
Hey, Pete, I'm doing great.
Awesome. And lastly, not leastly, we have Bobby Morelli from Match Perfectly. Bobby, how you doing?
Pete, it's great to be here. Good to see you guys.
Oh, welcome one and all. This is a stellar lineup, I have to say. And we're all off cam. We all just went and got suited and booted and talking about how.
Except me, who's just like in a casual linen shirt. It basically just looks like I've been like invited at the last minute and just had to turn up in what I'm wearing.
Well, maybe we're inside your subconscious now, Chris, and like your subconscious is a bit more laid back than everybody else's. Well, gents, we were just saying also how excited we were to do this particular episode because there's so much to talk about with not just relation to the film, but the style of the film as well. I'm going to give you a little bit of backdrop to Jeffrey Kurland, who is the costume designer. So his filmography boasts of Tenet, soon to be released, hopefully. Inception, of course, Dunkirk, Mission Impossible Fallout, Collateral, Ocean's 11, Man on the Moon, and The Fan, amongst many.
What? Hang on. Sorry, The Fan. Is that the Wesley Snipes?
Yeah.
Good Lord. Wow, I did not know that. Sorry, carry on, Pete.
According to IMDb. Has anyone seen that? I saw that at the cinema, I remember.
Oh, I saw it at the cinema.
Yeah. No, I haven't. I think I left Wesley Snipes at passenger 57.
Chris, perhaps we can kick it off with you. I know that on your blog you've interviewed Jeffrey, I think twice. Could you give us a bit of a thumbnail sketch as to your impressions of him and what he's like as a person?
Yeah, I think I've interviewed Jeffrey probably, it might actually be 3 or 4 times now. We spoke twice about Inception, and I've recently done like a revisit for Inception just to sort of, go over old stuff that he probably couldn't have talked about at a time that might have been a bit spoilery and stuff. He's wonderful. He's very much into the story and the character, and although it's an incredibly stylish film, and Tenet looks like it's the same way, it didn't seem like it was the absolute forefront of his mind when he was doing the film. It was more about, it takes place in that kind of world. I'm assuming a little bit like Tenet, where it's this kind of like, it's not espionage as such, but it's kind of like cool agents doing cool stuff. So, I mean, you couldn't imagine the whole crew in Inception with like tracksuits on and, baggy cargo pants. It wouldn't work. To make it believable, it needs to be a kind of smart, established world, like it's another business, like it's like it's banking or something else. This is a business. This is what people do. They dress for it, and I think he understood that very much. He's a lovely, lovely guy, and he's. I mean, it's his approach to things. I mean, obviously he did Fallout with Tom Cruise and stuff. And he clearly loves doing male dress, suiting definitely. But I think he has a really good eye in that he does stuff that his clothes don't date necessarily that much. I mean, they're going to date a little just because of that's life. But and it doesn't seem like he's that aware of it. He's very humble. He's a lovely guy. He wouldn't tell me anything about Tenet. Every time I asked him about Tenet, he was basically just shut me down. And basically, I was that close from getting a cool ending. He's a lovely guy. He really is.
Bobby, we had this idea. In fact, it was your idea to do this as a topic for the show. Why does this one leap out to you particularly? Why did we want to discuss this film?
it's so interesting. Chris is saying that it's like got a timeless quality, I think, to the tailoring in this. And you think about stylish films, and this one is just so stylish. It's like Christopher Nolan's films, his whole filmography is highly stylized. And I think the clothing in this one elevates that. I think it amps that up, and it's just such a stylish film. And to me, it's fascinating, kind of the concept of having this almost entirely taking place on a 10-hour flight. But the levels and layers to that require a different kind of level of costume. I think it's a really intricate story that the costume and the lighting and the set design all play key elements into keeping the audience grounded in where they are in that dream sequence. And so to me, when you Pete and Matt were talking about maybe expanding a little bit beyond the world of Bond, I mean, to me, this was like first and foremost to me, because it is espionage, it is action, but it's so stylish at the same time. I just think it does it almost flawlessly.
Matt, you saw the film quite recently for the first time. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I loved it. It was something that I've wanted to watch for a long time, and I guess now I finally had the reason to really just to sit down and watch it. Like Chris and Bobby mentioned, it's very. It looks, I mean, the style is very timeless, and I would say that goes for almost everything in the film. That film doesn't date, and I think that that works well because dreams really don't take place in our reality anyway, and dreams need to have. They can't really. I wouldn't think a dream should feel like it's from any certain era, and the whole film really goes well with that. The only thing that really would probably date the film are that they use cars of a certain era. Those cars will look old at one time in the future, but I don't think anything else will. I don't
Not
think
like
anything
Time
else will.
Cop. You seen the cars in Time Cop?
No.
Go and have a look at the cars in Time Cop, and that was set in the
No
future.
one's seen Time
Yeah,
Cop. What do you
but
Sorry.
I don't think anything in this film will make it look like it's from 2010, apart from the cars, and nothing else will. I mean, especially not the clothes. There's one thing in the clothes that just stood out to me though as being of that time, and that was that most of the men they made their ties with a Windsor knot. Windsor.
Cillian Murphy, it's like that thing looks like a slice of pizza.
That is beast. That is a beast of a tie. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of those really big tie knots. A lot of different people are wearing them. I mean, some of them, I think. I mean, sometimes I see. I think might be half Windsors. I put on a half Windsor knot for today's conversation because I can't bring myself to tie a full Windsor knot. But there's I mean, like Leo is wearing them, and it's just those things like that was like a really big thing of that time. The Windsor knot. People really wanted to have those big tie knots in 2010, and now that has gone away. So that I think is something that might date the style of the film, but that's it.
Interesting. Hey Matt, I wrote down in my notes Ken Watanabe suits Sato for Matt. I had this idea that he was the character that you'd probably gravitate to the most. Oh
yeah, I definitely say I gravitated to his style, but also I think just his character. I love the character. I mean, he's obviously not like supposed to be a relatable person because he's just so, he's the kind of guy that can just buy an airline on a dime. But at the same time, I kind of felt like he seems like down to earth in ways that no one else was, and the style was just his style was amazing. It just like he looked like it was mature and timeless, and he didn't really have those giant tie knots, so he looked a little better than a lot of the others.
Chris.
That's really interesting because so I was going to say when I spoke to Jeffrey Kurland again recently, he was so gushing about Ken Watanabe, as Saito. It was just like, because I was saying, well, they all seem to have slightly different looks. You've got Cillian Murphy, who is largely in the double-breasted suits. You've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's mainly in the three-piece suits. And when I mentioned Ken, he was like, I could put him in anything. we didn't need to be too specific for him because he could just wear anything. And when I watched it again recently, he just looks wonderful. And you wouldn't necessarily assume, just looking at pictures of him, that he would look so good in a suit, but he does look incredible. I think he was clearly his favorite to dress.
Yeah, I think he looks better in a suit than anyone else in the film because he looks so comfortable in a suit. Whereas like Murphy, he looks like a kid in a suit. He's wearing those braces. The braces make him look. I mean, he looks like he's supposed to be some like 80s banker, but he's the child of an 80s banker.
Well, that kind of fits the character because he's supposed to be kind of like this spoiled,
right.
Petulant kid that, I can't, I haven't been able to do what I want. I haven't been able to impress my daddy and all these sort of things. So it kind of works in
it definitely works.
Movie,
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Chris, do you have any insight into who made the suits? I know Jeffrey Kurland said that he made the suits, about like 86 of them or something, according to your blog. Or maybe the stuntmen had about 86. Or maybe it was just Leo that had 86.
I don't read my own blog. I have no idea what I said.
Oh, well, so I'm just trying to figure out who actually who provided the costume.
Well, the suits were tailored and made by Dennis Kim, who has done a lot of movie stuff. But I guess Google him, you probably wouldn't be able to find that much out about him. I haven't done that myself, but he's done a lot of movie suits. I'm guessing he can churn out a lot quickly because that's what's required on films like this. But yeah, the suits were tailored by Dennis Kim. They're Kurland's design as much as I would imagine, probably not beyond the sketch outline. And then, it's kind of like, I want double-breasted, I want this, I want that. And then Dennis Kim was actually the one who tailored them in Los Angeles. So yeah, he's the guy that did it.
Interesting. Hey, Bobby, do you have a favorite suit from the film, or even a character that wears it well? Which one stood out to you the most?
Tell you what, I'm a big fan of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's entire wardrobe in this. I think he pulls off the three-piece in the waistcoat look. It's stellar. I mean, he looks great. I tell you, my favorite two looks from the film aren't necessarily the tailored pieces. I love the leather jackets that Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Leo are wearing kind of in the first dream sequence. I think my favorite piece is Joseph Gordon-Levitt's oxblood kind of 70s meets 40s sort of style retro jacket. I just think that look is perfect. I love those leather jackets. I went down a rabbit hole trying to figure out, like this first came out like 10 years ago, trying to figure out where I could track one of those down. It's like, they were all custom made for the film. So it's kind of a tough ask. Yeah. I really, really like those two looks. I mean, those are really nice casual looks that I think, again, play into that timeless element. You can wear those, in the 40s and the 70s, in the 2010s or 2020, I think you wouldn't look out of place. I think they're super cool. I love how rich the colors are. And it's interesting that both he and Leo are wearing leather jackets, but they each have their own personality. They each have their own sort of unique qualities to each of those jackets. The color most obvious. So yeah. I really like how those presented on film.
I got from him that he was mainly the progenitor of exposition, that if anything needed explaining, it would be Joseph Gordon-Levitt doing it. And I took that, so I in my head, I'm always thinking, well, why doesn't he dress like Tom Hardy in this film? Or why doesn't he dress like Leo in this film? Why is his character dressing the way he's dressing? And I think it's because he has to be very clinical and he has to be almost quite sterile. And I think that his look is perhaps the most distilled out of everyone's. I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall.
I don't know if it's the most distilled. I'd probably say Eames's look is probably the most distilled out of all of them. But I get what you're saying, because there's one particular scene after Ariadne has initially had a dream experience with Cobb. She goes away and comes back, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I will explain it all to you." Yeah. And he's got the suit on, but he's got like a I guess like a tank top or something underneath it, and he looks like a professor essentially explaining the rules of Inception to her. It's like, I've got my professor clothes on now. I will explain it all to you. You're right though. He very much does seem like that. But I did love that shot as well. There's obviously with the revolving corridor thing.
Oh god, that is my favorite scene of the
yeah,
film.
I mean, it's the best thing ever. But you get that shot of his braces. I mean, he's got button braces on essentially to, well, let's face it, to stop his trousers basically disappearing down his ass. So what they would have done, and his shirt would have popped out in all the worst ways. So, but yeah, no, I think his look is supposed to be very much there's a thing that Ian says in the film, you know, he doesn't have a lot of imagination after. He's a bit of a stick in the mud, you know, he's very serious. So I think that's why he's dressed in that way. He's very buttoned up, you know, he's the least relaxed of the crew, I guess.
Yeah, I got that. And I think also there's something about dudes fighting in suits. That's probably why, you know, the Bond films are so great, right? It's not something you see every day when you pop out the boozer. It's just, but when you see them in hotel rooms or hotel corridors, and it's suited dudes. I mean, even the people that are chasing Leo DiCaprio in the Mombasa scenes, they're all suited and booted as well. So it's, yeah, you're right. It's a stylishly shot film. Everything in it has got a level of class, and it would be completely dislocated if these guys are just running around in Nike tracksuits, and even the kind of extras in the background. I mean, so I was actually going to get onto Tom Hardy. Bobby, at the time this came out, had you heard of Tom Hardy? Because I think this was probably the first time that I'd really noticed Tom Hardy in anything.
Yeah, I think this was kind of the first film that showcased him. I think, you know, and I think, you know, I hadn't watched this film in a while. I hadn't, and going back, it's funny, that scene where Leo's running through had a very Casino sort of vibe to me, where he's, you know, being chased and, you know, you're kind of hiding and asking for the just give me a coffee, please, just give me a coffee. I don't want to get, you know. And I think, you know, Tom Hardy in this is dressed a little bit more flamboyantly. You know, it's like he's very much at ease. He's very much in his element, and you know, he does exhibit some kind of Bond-esque qualities. I think so. You know, I didn't really know him too much before this. I don't think, Pete. I think this is kind of my introduction to him. But I like him in this.
He does get not only like the colourful wardrobe, but the flavoursome lines. I mean, "Dream a little bigger, darling" is probably the tagline that you hear most, and then he just comes up with this canon. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, he's kind of camp in I believe he was kind of based on a sort of like Graham Greene style traveller. He's an expat. You know, he's out of, I'm guessing he's obviously supposed to be English, but he's living in Mombasa and probably other sorts of places. So his kind of clothes are sort of reflection of the places he's lived in. And he has that flamboyance, like you said, dream a little bigger, darling, and all this sort of stuff. I love him. He's essentially my style icon, certainly during summer months anyway.
Yeah, there's a whole thread online about him and Arthur having this closet relationship, and they think it's actually the whole film is that in another level. But I won't be watching that sequel. Yeah, I'm not going to be watching that. Matt, Tom Hardy as Bond, what say you?
No, I've never seen him as anything close to being a Bond type of person. I mean, because it's like, I mean, I guess when I think of Bond, I still think of like Connery and Moore, and think of like a more sophisticated type of person. But then, you know, Daniel Craig has taken things down a little from that sophistication. But Tom Hardy is not even, you know, he goes way past that. He's really, I don't think of him as anything like a Bond type, and I didn't think of him in this as anything like Bond.
Right.
He wouldn't be my choice either, for the record.
No.
Yeah.
So,
is this just based on sartorial or what he's worn in previous films, or his manner?
Yeah, his manner. He's not. I don't think his manner is like Bond at all. I've never seen him play any character that was a Bond-like character.
Yeah, he's almost too big a presence. I mean, if you think about Tom Hardy movies, he's big in them. You know, he played Bane. You know, he's kind of like, he's a big character in them. He did one of the Cray well, he actually did both of Craig brothers, didn't he? But he's too much for the part. I would say there's too much baggage with him. There's too much going on.
Yeah.
For me, well, I mean, if we're getting into the whole territory, someone a little bit new, a little bit fresher would be my choice, but I still couldn't be pinned down exactly who.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's now too old to be playing Bond anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I was thinking now, with all the different characters in this film, with all the different styles, do we think one of them has a Bond? One of them like looks more like dressed like Bond than maybe any of the others.
Ken Watanabe.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Saito character probably more than any of the rest.
Right, so Saito is Bond.
Saito's
Bond. So he looks very at ease in those clothes too.
Yeah.
Like, it's the cliche of the clothes aren't wearing him. He looks very at ease. Think about that helicopter scene. Where he's whatever, choose your team more wisely, Mr. Cobb.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like his presence is very commanding without being loud. He commands attention. And I think that his clothes sort of emanate that a little bit. So he just seems very at ease with his position. He's the guy that can buy an entire airline. It's like
I absolutely agree with Bobby on that. It's like I don't need to dress to tell you that. I'm very comfortable in what I'm wearing. They're pretty subtle as far as suit's concerned, but they're beautiful. And it's kind of like you said, it exudes a confidence that doesn't need his clothes to exude as well.
Where you see that confidence is really towards the end of the film, and where everybody's waking up on the plane, and everybody's kind of getting their bearings a little bit. And the first thing he does, he wakes up, is like, I got a call to make. It's like straight to business. Leo did his job. And now I got to uphold my end of the bargain.
And that's such a good
point.
point.
It's very cool.
Talking about that scene, when I just watched it just before bouncing onto this call, and all I can see, and I wrote it down, was long point collars. Whilst because there's no dialogue, everyone's going to give everyone the real serious eyes, or the well done eyes, and it's fucking fantastic.
Leo's are long. I mean, we're not talking like Joe Pesci in Casino long, but they are.
They're fierce. They're real fierce collars on him.
They're a little narrow, and his collars are a little too narrow for those Windsor knots. Whereas Cillian Murphy, he's got the wider collars and the wider tie knot. And that's like that was probably more of the look of that time. Those Leo's collars were probably on their way out at that time in fashion. But I don't know. I did notice them, and I liked them though. I thought that those collars don't. They're very timeless collars actually. They're very balanced. They're not of really any era. So I actually don't mind them.
I agree. It didn't detract for me. Some of you look at some of Roger's films, with huge lapels and really, really wide trousers and things like that. And those weren't offensive in any way. Those collars, I think they frame his face pretty well. To be honest, I think that look suits him. They weren't overly done, but I think that accentuated.
Yeah, and I am glad that not everyone was wearing the same kind of shirt collar, because it really gives them their own identity. And this was an era of menswear from like this from like 2000 to 2010 was an era where that kind of had a lot of different classic variation in menswear. It wasn't not everyone wore the same thing, but kind of clothes never really went to any extremes. So I think this film really shows shows that era of menswear that looked to the past but didn't really try anything new, didn't try anything to be, it never tried to make a big statement, which is why the clothes in this film, that's why we're talking about them now.
And you know what?
I think.
Oh, sorry, go on, Bob.
I was just going to say quickly, I think, you look at somebody like Leo, that, why he isn't the Bond look in this movie. You get a look at him in, suiting. You get a look at him in casual clothing. You get a look at him in a very wide variety of settings. And I think, he's got some really great wardrobe choices like that. Your post, Pete, that corduroy jacket.
Oh yeah.
That dark gray charcoal jacket is super cool. you see him in a bunch of different settings and a bunch of different looks, so you kind of get a more complete picture of what his character is. You know what I mean? It's I think I like that about the film.
And he's also like the chipped cup out of everyone. He's got the dead wife chasing him around in everybody else's subconscious. So his brooding look has to kind of come through his clothes as well. It can't all be the Cillian Murphy crisp double-breasted suits and he can't look the nines in every scene. He does have to have a bit of a dowdy look to him in places.
But his look is like what he wears. Like I said, you could easily wear now without anyone batting an eyelid.
Oh yeah.
The textures, those shirt, jackets, shacklets, whatever people want to call them. I think he has a couple of those on. The trousers are a little higher than we can classically buy off the high street, which still really irritates me. But they're just, it's a very sort of loose, a lot of natural fibers. There's a lot of textures in this film. You've got the raw silk on Eames's jacket in Mombasa. You've got the corduroy. You've got his silk ties, Sato's. There's a lot of lovely textures that pop out here. But as Matt was saying, nothing too leery, nothing too much, which it doesn't date it too much. We're not sort of going back going, it's all quite classic, in terms of look.
Matt,
there's that. Yeah, there's one look of Leo's that I like a lot, where he's he's wearing that I think it's like a charcoal striped suit with peaked lapels. He's got that I think it's like a blue fine striped shirt, a gray tie. That look, it definitely has like a very high end business look, I think, of that era, but also kind of like recalls the 1940s or 30s, and I think it's a look that makes him look like very suave. He looks like he's he doesn't look like Bond necessarily, but it's a different kind of suave. I'd say he looks mature. He looks very confident.
Is that the hotel scene where he's with Cillian Murphy?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Matt. You had that scene in the hotel where it's like he needs to be a reassuring presence.
Yeah.
And say, you have to think back, Mr. Fisher. I'm here to protect you. You can trust me. It's like he's selling him on that. Yeah. It's like, you have to recall this. You have to trust me. And he again, the clothes represent that. Like you're saying, Matt, he's got a very self-assured presence.
Yeah, he needs to be on a level with him, doesn't he? Yeah. Sorry.
But I mean, the clothes are very special clothes. They're not just, he's not wearing an ordinary suit. There's something very special about that. And I think, I mean, obviously that is something that someone like Murphy's character would pick up on. He would pick up on, someone wearing, a very fancy suit as opposed to someone wearing a more ordinary suit. And someone who's in his position would notice, they trust probably someone who has the image of big success. And Leo definitely pulls that off. I mean, he's played other characters that have been like that over the years too. And I think Leo does a great job at those characters. But he can wear those clothes really well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way he comes up walking into the scene, he sort of strides into that hotel, and it's the Levitt's character Arthur and Ariadne are sitting there looking at him. It's this is Mr. Charles, and Mr. Charles comes in and he's got the stride, and like you said, his suit is just enough to show that he's convincing in who he is, but not too much. Enough to sort of, okay, I'm part of you. I'm Rod Green from marketing, but I'm not really that person. Feels not.
Yeah.
And another thing with the fit, I noticed as well when I was rewatching it this morning. There's a scene when after he's convinced Fisher that he needs to protect him, and they sort of run away to the bathroom, and he shoots those two guys. As they get up and walk away, like the fit of the suits, it's a very accessible fit. It's neither too tight, it's neither too loose. It's essentially just a really good fit. The sleeves are, you just got enough for the cufflinks to come out.
Yeah.
The chest feels contemporary then, and it feels contemporary now, but it doesn't feel too exaggerated in any way. I guess you could say a little safe, but I would also say quite classic.
Right, and I think if he's in a dream, the suit has to be perfect. No one dreams up a suit that's not perfect.
Hey,
Who's gonna be dreaming about? Who's gonna dream about a suit that where the sleeves are just a little too long and you have a little roll of fabric in the back of your neck?
that would be my dream. I'd probably be
Yeah.
wearing the most heinous suit of all time because I can't get my subconscious to do anything right.
Yeah.
Well, gents, I don't know if there was anything else that you guys wanted to mention or highlight. I did have one last thing. Chris, on your blog, I noticed that Jeffrey Kurland did a very different thing. So the ending is all kind of shrouded in, does the totem fall? Is he still within the dream? And I noticed that when reading your blog, the kids' clothes were different, imperceptibly different, but it was just enough to let you know that this was real. Can you just tell us about that?
Yeah. Yeah, this was something that when I interviewed him 10 years ago, I didn't realize. I was just talking and he said something along the lines of the kids' clothes are different, they're not the same. And I was like, oh, what the hell does this mean? So I went back and looked through it, and yeah, they are very, very similar. So it's done to play with you a little bit. And of course, it's the first time you see the children's faces, which shows that it's a new memory. Well, would it be a memory when it's happening? I don't know, but it's not what he's been thinking of before. This is new, and it's unfolding in actual real time. So the spinning top, as far as Jeffrey Kurland was concerned, after reading the script and getting it explained to him, the final scene in the film is Cobb. This is a reality for Cobb. I know Nolan said it doesn't really matter and stuff, but it's like, yeah, I know, but yeah, give us an answer. Just give us an answer. But it seems like, according to people involved in making it, from what I can understand, they treated the last scene as being real, and one of the hints was the kids wearing slightly different clothing, and the fact they turn around and look at the camera.
I love that. I think that's just really cool.
Bobby, so that's kind of sweet.
Bobby, did you have any final thoughts on this film? Again, thanks so much for suggesting it for us.
No, my pleasure. I think the moral of the story is no matter what state of consciousness you're in, you should be sartorially prepared. That's what I'm going with here.
Oh my God, business card. That is
wonderful.
I'm stealing that.
It's yours, Chris. Take it. There's my parting shot.
That's excellent. That should have been the tagline. Matt, thanks for joining us, mate. Did you have any passing thoughts or anything you wanted to add?
No, I think we just leave it on what Bobby said.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to top Bobby's. Well, again, everyone, thanks for joining us. I guess until next time, buenas fortunas.
Goodbye, Countess.
Bye.
Take care.